Hey friends, how's it going? Good afternoon. It's my time afternoon. I don't know where you are, but I hope you're doing well. Today we're going to continue along my series that I kind of haven't done in a while for tips for new riders. This would be episode 5. I have 4 other episodes. I'll put the link here if you want to go check those other ones out. I have a playlist of those. Now, again, these tips are for new riders. So, those of you that are watching this channel, I have some friends and I know some people that are as experienced as me or much more experienced than me. Of course, you don't have to watch this. And in fact, I should say, some of these tips that I've gotten along the way have come from some of my friends and people that are more experienced than me. And that's the best way to ride a bike, is surround yourself with people more experienced with you, because you can only learn from them. So today, let's start off. I think this is, let me look at my notes here, 42. This is tip number 42, episode 5. It's a quick one. We're just talking about your kickstand and its footprint. So when you, and this is something you don't think about until you get in this situation. This happened to me here in Texas and other areas of the country. I'm sure a lot of restaurants and pubs and bars and, places we have these big bike meetups. They'll have gravel parking lots, dirt parking lots, or in some cases grass. And depending on the weather, especially grass, it could be quite soft. And when you put your kickstand down, if your kickstand foot, like mine, is quite small, your bike is probably not going to be held up by that kickstand. It'll probably fall over and you'll have issues. So what you want to do is get a kickstand puck. So I'll put one up here online. You can find these all over the place, and they just fit onto the little foot and increases the surface area of the kickstand foot so that it'll hold your bike up. The other thing you can do if you don't buy one of those and you get into a pinch is you could look around the environment where you are and try to find a flat rock or a flat piece of wood or branch that's big enough that's flat, or anything that's flat in a bigger surface area than what you have, and put it under your kickstand to kind of hold your bike up. In my case, I have a center stand. And my center stand, like all center stands, has 2 feet. Both of those are a little larger than my kickstand. So if I can, if it's not that soft, I could use my center stand as well to, hold the bike up. So it's just something to think about. You just, one of those things you get in those situations, you're like, oh man, this is all muddy and soft, and how am I going to hold my bike up? So that's tip number 42. All right, tip number 43, and this is, I think, more so for, in my case, it would definitely be for my younger self when I had a big ego. And when you're out riding around and if someone cuts you off, don't take it personal, unless, of course, the person is trying to physically assault you with their vehicle, which is, in my case, not the case. I've had many, many, many cars cut in front of me, cut me off, pull in front of me. In every case, the person didn't see me and they didn't know I was there. So it's not their complete fault. And if you let your ego get the best of you and you get angry, and I'm sure you've seen videos where people run up and, ride up real quick to the car and punch their side mirror off or kick the car or something. And I'm sure you've seen just as many videos of people doing that. They go ahead and crash because they kicked the car, lost their balance, and wiped out. So it's pretty no brainer. Just, keep the ego out of it. Just be happy that you were, driving or riding, I should say, defensively enough to avoid being hit by that person. And again, these are all defensive skills when you're hitting intersections or any of these kind of danger areas for motorcycles. Keep your head on a swivel and just try to avoid the accident, ride defensively. And then if someone does cut you off, just hopefully avoid it and be thankful that you didn't hit or go down, and then go on your way.
Okay, this is tip number 44. As we pull up to Ride Now Power Sports, I'm going to park right here out of the way and just talk to you about this. So if you buy a new motorcycle and it's your first motorcycle and you're not a very experienced rider, in most cases, around here anyways in Austin, all the motorcycle dealers are located on this highway that's right next to us. Wow, there goes a whole bunch of bikes on them. Anyways, they're located right on this I-35 freeway, which you can see here on my left-hand side. And then right in front of us is the frontage road, which runs parallel to the highway. The speed limit on this frontage road is usually about 55 miles per hour. And the highway, it varies in Texas anywhere from 65 to 85 miles an hour. Generally 70 is the most popular. 70 miles an hour is typically what the speed limit is. So those are very, this goes into the tips I said before about the highway driving or riding. These are high-speed places that can make new riders very nervous and make mistakes. And I know that there have been accidents of new riders leaving motorcycle shops and getting on this frontage road or the highway and having an accident. So, and this is another thing you kind of don't think about. You just think about the excitement of having a bike, getting that new bike, and all that great stuff. But two things. One, see if the dealership can deliver the bike to you. It probably costs you a little bit of money for them to do that, but at least they can deliver it to your house, and you've got the bike at home safely, and then you can go in your neighborhood and practice riding and go to parking lots and things, you know, areas around where you live that you feel comfortable. Or bring a friend with you and have them, that's an experienced motorcycle rider, and have them ride the bike home for you. Those are your two options. Again, this is something I think a lot of riders don't think about until they've, you know, the keys are in their hand and they're about to walk out the door of the dealership with their new bike, and they say, oh my God, I got to get on the highway and ride home. So that's another tip. So here is tip number 45, according to my notes. This tip has to do with the shifter. So most bikes, a lot of motorcycles are 1 down and 6 or 5 up. Getting on the, oh no, actually I'm going to go straight. I'm not going to get on the highway right now. So a habit you can get into is resting your foot. So your toes are going to go under the shifter when you're going up in gears to 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th. And then your foot's going to go on top of the shifter when you're downshifting from 6th to 5th to 4th, 3rd, etc. The bad habit to get into is some people, when they're downshifting or they're just riding, they keep their foot on top of the shifter, and that is not ideal, because if you hit a bump, if you're accelerating, like right now, if I had my foot on the top of the shifter, you can't see that, but I'm just pretending I'm doing that. And now I'm going to start to accelerate a little bit, but then I hit a bump. And if you have a quick shifter, you can actually downshift while you're trying to go faster. And obviously that's not a good idea, because your bike, if you don't have a slipper clutch, your rear tire might lose traction. And you definitely don't want to do that, because you can go down. So what I suggest and what I do is, when I'm shifting up, if I'm accelerating from 1st to 2nd, 3rd, 4th, you know, obviously I keep my foot underneath the shifter because I'm shifting up. But once I've got to the gear where I'm going to coast, maybe if I'm on a side street, I'm going to be in 4th gear, or if I'm on a highway and I'm going to be in 6th gear, and I'm not going to be changing gears anytime soon, as I move my foot back and put the ball of my foot on the peg. So now my toes and my foot are not under the shifter or over it. They're not touching the shifter in any way, shape, or form. And then I move my foot forward, under or over the shifter when I, you know, need to shift. So that's just a small tip, and that's one I learned on my own. Whereas I was in a situation where I was going to be accelerating. I didn't move my foot. I hit a bump and I pressed down on the shifter. Because this has a quick shifter, it did allow it to shift without the clutch down while I was trying to accelerate. And it did. The bike just went, whoa, it like nosedived on me, and that wasn't comfortable. So there you go.
Tip number 46, and let's get into, let me go over here and we'll get into this one. For this tip, I'm going to use these bikes as an example. So we're here with these BMW S1000 RR full-on race bikes, 1000cc motors, very, very fast bikes. If this is your first bike, a lot of people would say that's not a good idea because it's way too powerful for you. But there are certain circumstances. I think if you're coordinated enough, have good balance, and restrain yourself, You could probably handle it. And one of the features these type of bikes have, the newer ones, is they come with ride modes. So this bike here, you could actually put it in rain mode, and that would kind of hold back the throttle. This is a kind of fly-by-wire situation, so it could really downgrade the bike to be lethargic, if you will, but bring it down to a point where if you twist the throttle a little bit, you're not going to go flying up into a wheelie, or make a newbie mistake and twist the throttle where you're going to go crashing into something, hopefully. But that's just a suggestion. People really want. I've talked to people that had bought like a 400 or 500cc bike as their starter bike, and 3 months later they were bored with it. So if you absolutely necessarily definitely want that bike, you just got to restrain yourself, get used to it, learn with it, put it in rain mode and ride around on it. That's one solution. Or you can go the other route and buy a smaller cc bike that you feel more comfortable with. I'm not advocating that you should buy this, but if this is the one that your heart is set on, you can even buy a used version of the R that's 2 or 3 years older. Now I'm doing these a little bit out of order because I'm in a parking lot, but this is tip number 47. I mentioned before the center stand. If your bike does have a center stand, I would use it if you're not going to be with your bike for a while. So for example, you park your bike, you go into a building, the bike is out of sight, you can't see it. I would use the center stand just for a couple of reasons. One, this happened to me. I came out of a store one time and there was a gentleman standing next to my bike, and he was putting his kids on my bike one by one to play brum brum. If he had, not that a little kid's gonna knock your bike over, but just in case, the center stand is always best because you're not gonna knock the bike over. The other thing is that, if there's wind or, anything that could, bump your bike, hit your bike, again, the center stand is much more stable, and it's not going to fall down. So if you have a center stand, use it when you're not around your bike for long periods of time and you can't see it. Okay, this is tip number 48, and this is getting on and off the bike, using the front brake. In my case, I because I have the bags and because I have the pod and because I'm a shorter rider, I actually put my left foot up on the left peg and stand up and then swing my foot over. It's just so much easier getting on the bike that way. If I leave my foot on the ground, I have to do a gigantic high Bruce Lee karate kick to get my leg over, clear my bags, clear my pod, and get onto the other side of the bike where I can fall in the seat. And I don't like doing that, kind of shuttling. I've seen people kind of stick their foot out and put it on their seat and kind of shuttle their way onto the bike. That's just kind of asking for a fall. So, and especially in my case, because I put my foot on the bike, now the bike is going to move and wiggle. Before I do that, I reach over and I grab the right hand grip and grab the front brake and I squeeze it. And then I go ahead and get up on the bike and go over. And that just holds the bike in place so the bike doesn't move backwards or forwards. If you're just on the kickstand and you're on an incline going down and you get on the bike, if it's in, especially one of the tips is you leave your bike in first gear when you park it. That's always a no-brainer. You don't want to leave it in neutral. But first gear still has some wiggle room before the gear actually engages and stops the bike from moving. So you just want to make sure that you're stable when you get on the bike. So grab that front brake, swing a leg over, get on however you want to get on, and then you're good to go. This is tip number 49. A lot of these tips are in the parking lot today. It's just a lot easier to do it here because these are kind of more show and tell. Let me go get this. So obviously one of the things you want to do, and this goes back to what I said earlier about cars, leave the ego out of it and cars not seeing you, cutting you off and whatnot, is you want to be visible. As you can see, I love black. My bike is black. I got a little bit of red accents. My clothes are black. So at night, I'm not a very visible person. So I don't, ooh, wow, there's a big bee, dead one caught in here. Whoops. Sorry, dude. I don't ride at night. The only time I do is when I go to bike meetups, and then it ends at like 8 or 9 o'clock, and then I have to ride home in the dark. So what I have done, just as the cheap way, is I bought one of these high vis vests. It was really cheap. It was like, I think, $17 or something like that. So I just take this and I put it over my jacket, zip it up, and I also put some reflectors in the back of my helmet, and I ride home. I also employ, when I come up to a stoplight, even during the daytime, I tap my front brake or rear brake pedal, tap, 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 to let the rear brake light go off and on as I'm coming to a stop, slowing down so the cars behind me can see that I'm doing that. I also, when I come through an intersection, even if it's during the daytime, remember, when someone's looking at you, you're a very small silhouette. You're very thin with a little headlight on front, and that's it. And if that's static and you're just driving in a straight line at someone, you can get lost inside the environment that's surrounding your bike to someone's vision. And I don't know if it's happened to you, but I've seen this many times where I'm driving down the street and I see them over here on the right-hand side, and they're going to pull out in front of me and turn right. And they look right at me, I look right at them, and they pull out in front of me. And then I land the horn and rev the engine, all that, and then they oh my goodness, they get scared. They didn't see me. So, anything you do to be seen, vest, this helps a little bit. But what I was going to say earlier, when I get to an intersection, because that's the most dangerous part, and there's cars over on the other side facing you, and they're going to be turning left in front of you, maybe they have a green arrow or they don't have a green arrow, and they're going to turn. When I get to the intersection, I slow down, my spidey senses go off, and I start looking around, and I swerve the bike like this as I go through the intersection. And for me, it just seems like it works. I haven't been hit yet, thank goodness, but it's a moving target. So if someone looks at you, you're no longer just a steady, static target with a little beam of light on the tip of it. Now you're something that's kind of swaying with a light on it, going back and forth. That's much easier to see than just a bike going straight at. So I do a little swerve. No, not big swerves, especially if you've got cars on the side of you, just enough to do that. And I'm ready with the brake if something happens. That's it. So visibility, this was $14 or $17, I forget what it was, on Amazon, real cheap. And I just take it out, at night if I go to a bike meetup and it gets stuck, riding home at night. Okay, and this is tip number 50, and this should have been tip number 1. Again, these are not in any specific order. I just wrote them out, and it was something I really didn't think of because I thought it was just kind of a no-brainer, but I see it happen all the time at bike meetups, is no drinking and riding the motorcycle. Okay, if you're going to have a beer or a drink, make sure you stay where you are for at least an hour or more for each drink to help wear those off. Because what happens, especially if you're a new rider and you got a sport bike, even one beer will boost your confidence and courage enough for you to get out on that street and want to show off and maybe try a wheelie or just go really fast, and that's not good. So every bike meetup I go to, I do not drink. And if I do, it's like one beer and that's it, and I'm staying there for at least a couple hours. I'm also older and I don't care about doing wheelies or any of that stuff. But yeah, no drinking or riding. It's not a good mix. Okay, so I'm going to hop back on the bike, continue these tips until we finish, and I have a couple kind of bonus. I usually do like 10 tips, I think, each time. So I got a few bonus ones too that are for highway stuff. So I'll see you on the road. All right, friends, I'm here at my favorite toy store, Ride Now Power Sports. And this is tip number 51, which is the last tip for today. The tip is simply, if you do not have a motorcycle yet and you're looking to get one, consider buying a used bike. You can see here outside, these are all used bikes, some of them in great condition, and you're gonna save quite a bit of money by buying a used bike that's already broken in, already has, in some cases, has a lot of the things on it that you would want to put on it, like an aftermarket exhaust or some, quad locks or things that maybe the previous rider had left on or put on the bike and they stayed there. So that's my tip. Just consider buying a used one. Also, if you're new and you know, everyone drops their bikes. So if you have a used bike that's already got a little bit of a dingage and little scratches here and there, if you're learning to ride and you do drop it, you're not going to feel so bad compared to dropping the brand spanking new multi-$1,000 machine that you just purchased that has no scratches on it. So yeah, go to your local dealerships. I mean, like right now here, they've got a lot of used bikes, all kinds, cruisers, sport bikes, naked bikes, venture bikes, dirt bikes, pretty much anything with 2 wheels or 4.
All right, so highway is a scary place for new riders. I know it was for me in the beginning, but it's actually, when you think about, a relatively safe place in the regard that everyone is going in the same direction and there's no intersections. So, all right, so here's the first tip, and this is kind of, I guess, controversial to some degree, but I've seen some people online say ride in the right-hand lane like I'm doing right now, because you have a shoulder on your right-hand side to pull off into if you have to, and you have the center lane to pull into if you have to. So you got a couple exit routes. My thinking on this is that's true, but as you can see, we're coming up to an on-ramp here, and this big 18-wheeler truck is coming online here. It's not close to me, but in some cases, if I was a little further up, it would be. And sometimes people just fly onto these ramps and they just cut across traffic, and if they're not paying attention, especially for motorists that aren't going to see you, they can merge right into you and take you out. So what I like to do is what I'm doing right now. I'm going to move over into the center lane, then I'm going to move over into the right or left lane. I like to ride here in the fast lane. Now there's no real escape route to my left. There is to my right, but my feeling, I feel more comfortable this way because on my left I don't have to worry about any cars coming at me on my left hand side because the wall is right here. And then what I do is I speed up or slow down like I do. I'll just move the camera around right now. I create a little bubble for myself. So there's nobody in front of me for quite a while. There's no one behind me for many, many car lengths. This car in front of me to my right, this blue Volkswagen, is a couple 2 to 3 car lengths in front of me, and there's no one next to me. So I'm in a little bubble, and I'll stay just like this. If this blue car or other cars behind me are going faster or change speed, I will also change speed. I typically ride faster than traffic to keep ahead of, in front, and away from people. But my main goal is to stay away from people and create this nice big bubble around me, which I have right now. And if that means I have to slow down a little bit or speed up a little bit. So for example, I could create a bubble in front of this car. If this blue car starts to slow down, I could just speed up. Now I'm in front of him, he's away from me. I still have that nice bubble all around me. And I like to keep that bubble 3 car lengths in any direction, pretty much. It's not always feasible, but most times I do ride on the highway. I can achieve that. See, now in the middle lane, even though I'm passing cars, they're 2 lanes over from me. Not a problem. This is another bonus highway. So you see in front of me on my left here, this dark line in the pavement. Right now they're doing construction on this highway. So they've moved the lanes around a lot, and in some cases they've created very big gullies. So when you're riding your bike, you don't want to ease into the gully. If you have to cross it, you want to move away from it as far as possible, and then kind of angle yourself over it as fast as possible, as quickly as possible, not speed wise, but just get over it. If you kind of cross it slowly, a lot of times if the gully is big enough, it'll grab your front tire, pull you into the gully and then cause the bike to shake and move, and you could lose control of the bike. So you just cross it as quickly as possible on a greater angle. That was kind of an unforeseen extra tidbit for highway driving, just because I saw one in front of me. But now back to that bubble thing. Now you see it's not really possible. I've got a car behind me that's about 1.5 car lengths behind me, and I've got all these cars on my right hand side. So what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna blast past them, get by them, and then here comes my bubble again. See, there we go. Now I'm in a nice little bubble again. And then you can just, you know, it just, the more practice, the more times you ride on the highway, the better you get at it, the less scary it is. I mean, for me, quite honest, the most scary things on the highway for me are these like construction zones and all these uneven pavements and gullies. When you're riding at night and you can't see them and they hit your tire, oh, that's a little scary. So unless you're good at it or not afraid, I wouldn't suggest riding on the highway at night. It's just hard to see. Okay, another tip when you're riding the highway: ride when you're in a lane, ride your bike where the car's tires drive. That made sense. So you don't want to be like right now, let's see, like I'm in the middle of the lane right now, and you can see this kind of a shady, dark area that's running down the middle of this lane. That's from debris and oil and water and stains over the years. So typically the middle of the lane like this is going to be, if it starts to rain a little bit, it's going to be more slippery. But the main one is, if you ride behind a car in front of you too closely and you're in the center right there, like I am right now, I'm not that close to the car in front of me though. If there's debris in the road, now think about this, when you're driving your car, if you see debris in the road and you can't avoid it and it's not that big, you're just going to drive over it. And if it's just a piece of wood or a tire, your car might not even hit it. It'll just go underneath your car and out the back. Now if you're in the center lane following a car pretty close and they run over a piece of tire, guess what? That thing is going to come flying at you underneath that car too quickly for you to probably react, and you're going to hit the tire. So the best way is to, what I'm going to do now, right now, is I moved over to the left-hand side, and I'm in line with the car in front of me, their left-hand tire. So if they run over something and it goes underneath the center of their car, I'm not going to hit it. I'm just going to go past it. So that's another reason why. Or you can choose, if there's no one next to you, you can choose to be in the right-hand lane like this, or the right side of the lane. But I don't like doing that because it puts you closer to the center lane traffic, cars that are in the center lane there. All right, so those are some bonus highway tips that'll help keep you safe, hopefully. Again, it's not a scary place. Think about it though. You know, it's just everyone's going in the same direction. There's no intersection, so it makes it safer than an intersection. Most motorcycle accidents happen at intersections. And you know, like everywhere else on the road, you just got to keep your head on a swivel, be defensive, ride what feels comfortable. So earlier I mentioned I don't ride in the right-hand lane, but that's where the slower traffic is. And if you feel a little bit more comfortable riding in the right-hand lane, and that you have a shoulder to pull off into if you need to, by all means do it. Whatever makes you more comfortable as a rider. Me, I like to be against that wall and have speed on my side and just be able to get away from people and create that little magic bubble around me. All right, friends, well, that's it for today's tips. I hope those were useful to you. And as always, thank you for hanging out with me. Please like, subscribe, share, thumbs up, all that good stuff. I love it. Very much appreciate it. Helps the channel out a lot. So that's it. Thanks a bunch. Later.